Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Stock Market Today from the IBD newsroom. On today's show, we're going to take a look at a volatile session for the stock market. Major stock indexes ended with sharp losses. Fed cut interest rates by a quarter point. We're also going to take a look at earnings from Apple, Advanced Micro Devices, and earnings from a defense firm as well. Okay, hi again, everyone. Ken Shreve here, along with Ed Carson. Ed, not a great day for the stock market. The indexes were in kind of a holding pattern ahead of the Fed's decision to cut interest rates, but looks like we're going to get another distribution day for the NASDAQ and S&P 500 today.
Yeah, I mean, the rate cut didn't really change anything because that was what was expected. But then Fed Chief Powell spoke and basically said this was an adjustment, wasn't necessarily the beginning of a series of rate cuts, which, a lot of economists would say is not necessarily a bad idea, but the markets have been pricing in several rate cuts. And so by saying that, they're having to readjust it because the market has been rallying on this hopes for a series of rate cuts. Didn't happen. Big sell-off there, and it's really, you can't fight the Fed. I mean, if the Fed wants to be cutting rates or raise rates, you have to be ready to respond to that.
Yeah, taking a look at the NASDAQ chart here, the tech index ended with a loss of 1.2%, S&P 500 down 1.1%, and the Dow down about 1.2%. So it looks like we had some volume behind the declines today. So we had been talking about a market that's been under mild distribution in recent weeks, but definitely some institutional selling today.
Yeah, something to be watching for. We've obviously rallied a lot on good news and, what's going to keep propelling it forward.
Okay, so Apple, let's start by taking a look at Apple. Obviously, its earnings report was in the spotlight today. It actually did manage a game, and it did stage a technical breakout on a pretty good earnings report.
Yeah, the earnings were better than expected. The revenue turned higher slightly after a couple of quarters of declines. This was the third straight quarter of year-over-year earnings decline, so let's keep that in mind. Apple, this is Apple's first breakout, really, of the 2019 stock market rally. The big stock market leaders have already broken out once or maybe twice and run up a lot. This one's still well below the October peak, so that's just something to keep in mind. Where's the growth going to come from down the road, even if we do get revival, 5%, 10%? Is that really going to make Apple a stock market leader going forward?
To Apple's credit, it did close above a 215.41 buy point, and apparently the wearables business still doing pretty well.
Yeah, and services is relatively high margin, so they have things going forward. It's not, iPhone sales weren't great, so they still delivered a decent quarter anyway.
Okay, moving on, let's take a look at L3 Harris. Ticker here is LHX. This was a big earnings mover today, so take a look at Harris. Pretty bullish technical move for the defense firm today.
Yeah, I mean, L3 Harris, which is a merger of L3 Technologies and Harris Corp. Recently, it had reported accelerating earnings and revenue gains. It had been flirting with a buy point recently, going above and below. Today, it really powered strongly higher. Defense stocks have been doing well. Another F-35 supplier, Mercury Systems, broke out today really powerfully. That was up in double digits, moving above a buy zone. So this is a sector that's sort of quietly been a leader in recent months.
Yep, and finally, take a look at a bit of bad news in the market. Advanced Micro Devices, which actually had been trading pretty well after a breakout over a 30.05 buy point. The gain from the buy point had gone up to about 16%. It seemed like an earnings report that caught the market a little bit off guard. Yeah,
the earnings and revenue were basically in line. The real issue was the revenue guidance was weak. And again, people have been expecting, we're going to see the chip industry turning around. I think they were really looking for momentum. And this was just a real negative from really the stock that was sort of leading the way in the chip sector. So this is not just bad news for AMD, but maybe a little gloomy for some of the other chips. Powering below the 50-day line and heavy volume, not good action here.
Yeah, the reason why AMD had been a pretty strong price performer. Market obviously optimistic about a lot of new products, processors, graphic cards, but then the company just kind of gave sluggish revenue guidance for the current quarter, and that brought a lot of sellers into the stock, and like you said, a close below the 50-day moving average. All right, folks, still a busy week of earnings. Got a lot of earnings reports tomorrow and Thursday to kick out the week, but that's going to do it for today's show. Just wanted to remind you you about some newsletters that we have, weekly newsletters, daily newsletters. You can get all of these newsletters delivered to your inbox every day just by going to investors.com/newsletters. They're free, filled with information, so be sure to check that out. And also a reminder that we are all over social media, so be sure to check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today, I should say, and thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.